So Kristi Noem is no longer in the running for being VP for Trump, right? I mean, I know a lot of people out there really wanted her to be VP. I was personally not one of them. Nothing really against her, just didn't really see a reason why she should be vice president material, I guess. But a lot of people out there really like Kristi Noem, and she did, a really good job in South Dakota, especially during COVID and everything that happened then. But she just shot her campaign in the foot, or her dog in the head, I guess, with this one, which is just, why would you talk about this? And for those of you who don't know, Kristi Noem released a book talking about her life, all the things she's been through. And in the book, she tells a story of having to put down her dog, who was about 15 months old and was a hunting dog and just wasn't listening, was attacking the neighbor's chickens, trying to kill them, is what she was saying, and even was pretty violent towards her, though then again, it's 15 months old. It probably was just still young, but still, when you have small children, that's something to definitely look out for. And being in a rural area, she did what, frankly, let's be real here, many farmers do. And I know there's a lot of farmers online going, oh, we would never do that. We would never. Listen, I'm barely country as is, and I know farmers who have put down their dogs. Okay, this is not an uncommon thing. And for a mother who has small children and a dog that's becoming a bit aggressive and frankly not doing the work it was bred to do, this isn't too surprising. The issue here is, why would you admit to this at all in your memoir? Why on earth would you talk about this in your book? The public at large does not live that lifestyle. The public at large doesn't have that much interaction with people who live in real rural America. And South Dakota, pretty rural America, right? I mean, I don't way you can get more rural than that is when you start going to places like Wyoming or Alaska or something like that. But South Dakota, really rural area. But most people don't have interactions with people who live in these areas. So this idea that you would put down your dog because it's not doing what it was bred to do, and because obviously, again, it's nipping a little bit maybe at your kids, is foreign to a lot of people. Not only that, but now we live in a society, of course, where people are terribly attached to their dogs. I mean, they are attached to their dogs to the nth degree, way, way more than they should be. And do not get me wrong, I have loved every pet dog we have ever owned, right? I remember being a kid, we had to put down our first dog named Roxy, this beautiful yellow lab, and I cried my eyes out when we said goodbye to her when we dropped her off a year put down. When the next dog, we had a beautiful golden retriever that we found at the farm, and we were going hunting and we found this golden retriever as a puppy about this big, covered in ticks, and they said there was no way it was going to live, and what do you know, she had wound up living for over a decade. Eventually she had a seizure. I was frankly the only person at home, which was kind of sad, but I had to pick her up, put her in a truck, take her and get her put down. I cried my eyes out. And when I buried the family cat, it's a stupid cat, but guess what? I was still crying when I was burying the family cat when that happened. And though right now I don't have a dog, my kid is unfortunately kind of allergic to dogs, and so until he's at the age where he can get those shots so we can, he won't be allergic to them anymore, we have to wait to get a dog, or at least we have to find a way to get a hyperallergenic dog. Either way, when we get a dog, I will be very, very sad, and I'll be crying when that dog dies too. In fact, I have a pet tortoise right now, and I'm not going to say that I'm going to cry when that tortoise dies, mostly because it's probably going to outlive me, given the fact they sometimes live over 100 years, so I might be long dead and it still be just walking around, I guess. But if it does die before me, I'm probably not going to cry, but I'm going to be definitely very sad, okay? I love animals. I truly love animals. But unfortunately, we live in a society now where animals have replaced children. And because of that, you have people saying things like, oh, I love dogs more than humans. Then that's a major, major problem. I'll tell you what. That is a major problem, that you're looking at an animal the same way you would look at a human. I'm not saying you can't love your animal. Again, I loved all the pets I've had. I have loved, even the stupid ones like the tortoise I have. Like, I love that stupid thing, right? It's really fun and really adorable. I love animals of all kinds. But at the end of the day, they're animals. So right now, we have this case where Kristi Noem puts down her dog, and apparently she took it to a gravel pit, shot it in the back of the head with a gun. And in her memoir, she also mentions doing the same thing to a goat, I guess. And I don't know why people are upset about that. I mean, come on. If you have a goat headbutting, your kids and just, you want to weed out that herd. I mean, come on. That is a herd animal. It's okay to sit there and put them down just because they're acting like a bunch of jackasses, right? If you have a goat that's acting like a jackass, put it down so it doesn't breed, right? That's what you want to do with a goat. She said, oh, it smelt bad and just was causing a mess. So she put down the goat, and people are freaking out over that too, I guess. And, again, I understand why people will be a bit like, ooh, with her putting down a dog, but you have to remember here, you're in a rural area. This was 20 years ago, which means you had less dog shelters than you have today. Remember, a lot of these dog shelters that specialize in dogs that are more aggressive came about after Michael Vick. After the Michael Vick, dog fighting ring, you see a giant spike and shelters that specialize in dogs that are bred to be more violent. Now, of course, with that, you've also seen violent dog attacks be on the rise every single year since then. So I don't think they're exactly working, to be perfectly honest with you. But 20 years ago, you didn't really have as many options, especially not in rural areas like South Dakota. You had almost nothing, which means you had to put Old Yeller down by yourself. That was the whole thing back in the day. I forget which show it was, but everyone knows the story of Old Yeller, right? The kid has to go and put down his dog behind the shed. You had to do that stuff on your own. That's what you did. What are you going to do? Drive 3 hours to a vet to get him euthanized? I mean, a bullet in the back of the head is just as quick, to be perfectly honest. So that's how things go. Again, I don't know why you would tell this in a book. I don't know why you would be so dumb to think that you could get away with this, well, in the public eye at least. But she did. She now lists this in the book. And again, I'm not saying she was at the top of the list for chances of being VP. She still probably was, I don't know, it was still kind of sketchy whether or not she would actually become VP or not. Like, she was still kind of on the more bottom rung of everything. But let's be real, Trump wants to have a woman for his VP because it looks good for imagery. I don't like that. I don't think that's a good idea. But that's probably what Trump's going to end up doing. So she was definitely on that list. There is no way in hell she's on that list now. No way in hell. Because even people on the right are just pillaring her over this. It makes... And again, maybe I'm insensitive. I don't know. I think it makes no sense. I really don't think it makes any sense. It seems like a nothing story to me. I first saw this the other day and didn't even make a video on it or anything because I just assumed that who cares? They live on a farm. Yeah, they put down their own dog. But I know people who've put down plenty of animals on farms. I know people who've killed their roosters because their roosters were a bit too angry and aggressive. I know people who've killed their goats because they were too aggressive or headbutting their kids. There was someone I talked to just recently that put down a donkey because it was just being a jackass, right? But no joke, someone at my church was talking about how they had to put down their donkey. I didn't even know people even still had donkeys. I don't even know why the hell they had it, but they did, and they had to put it down because it was just, again, pun intended, being a jackass. So the idea of having to put down a dog because, again, it's bred to be a hunting dog and wasn't doing a good job at it. It was attacking the neighbor's pets, and it was nipping at her, and according to her at least, being kind of violent towards her, or having the violent tendencies towards her, and she had small kids, and she was worried about what it might do to them. I'm sorry. It seems perfectly reasonable to me. But again, maybe I'm the jackass, right? maybe I'm the one. I don't know. It seems like we've got to a space now where we're looking at our pets and our animals and treating them as if they're humans. And I don't like that. I'll be real, I don't like it. I think it's creepy. I think it's weird. I think it's dangerous, actually. We used to say that when you start, when you call a human like a dog or something like that, that's a terribly insulting thing to do because you're dehumanizing them. Well, at the same time, we're humanizing dogs beyond people. We're at a stage now where people, if they saw a drowning man in a lake that's a random person or their own dog, they would go save the dog before saving the random man. It is absolute lunacy. I'm sorry, you let your own dog drown and you save the human being who has a I guess you could say a higher soul if you're religious, right? If you're atheist, then, we're top of the food chain. You can do whatever the hell you want, right? That's the more of the atheist way of looking at it, I guess. But for those of you out there who are religious and are Christian like myself, yeah, they probably have some kind of soul. I'll give you that. But, I think the Catholics view it as like a lesser soul and a higher soul or something like that. I could kind of get behind that idea. But they're not human. Or they don't have a human soul. They're not made in the image of God, so to speak, right? So this idea that we're raising them past humans, not even raising them to the same level as humans, but past humans, is a really crazy thing that's only been really happening in modern societies. I mean, people have always loved their dogs, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can find old grave sites to pet dogs from like the Roman Republic era. And there's there's these beautiful tombstones for like pet dogs that they had back then that have these poems on it that will about bring you to tears. Like it's really nice. So people have always loved their dogs. But now we're actually raising them above our fellow man. And it probably has to do with the fact of no one's having kids, and let's be real, like, everyone, I don't know, I think everyone treats their dog or their pet like their kid until they actually have a kid, in which case they realize, oh no, this is actually a big difference, right? When people say, oh, that dog is our kid, that's, it's just as tough for us. No, it's not. No, it's not. As someone who has 2 kids, it's definitely not. I've taken care of dogs. I've taken care of a cat. I've taken care of a tortoise. No, doesn't even compare. Kids are way, way different. But because we don't have a society that really is very family orientated, people have tried to fill that void, and they filled it with their pets. Which, again, is why I'm surprised that someone like Kristi Noem hasn't realized this and decided to go on and talk about what is probably a necessary thing to do when you live on a farm. Just to be, again, being real, this is 20 years ago. There's less dog shelters, around at that time. I'm sorry, you put the dog down. It's a sad thing, but it is what it is. But you don't go out and tell people about it in today's society. You just don't do it. To me, it doesn't show how evil she is. People on Twitter saying, oh, it shows that she's going to be burning in hell. She's so evil. She's an animal abuser. Listen, if she was flogging the dog with a cat of 9 tails, then yeah, that's animal abuse. But she shot it in the back of the head and gave it a quick death. That's not animal abuse. You can argue whether or not it was necessary, but it's not abuse. All right? It's just not. But it's not that she's evil for doing it. It's that she's stupid for even thinking about putting in a book. And frankly, that makes me question her leadership capabilities far more than the actual act itself. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Leave in the comments below. Go ahead and tell me how I'm just an evil bastard who hates animals, I guess. Either way, leave in the comments below what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and hey, on Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. we do a podcast here, a live stream here, me and my dad, to go through a few of the news stories. Again, 9:30 p.m. on Thursdays. Usually goes for about 2 hours or so feel free to hop in and join the conversation. Either way, hope to be seeing you again real soon, and peace.